fancy photos.
Right.
That takes whatever. You do a minute and 40 seconds of we're the greatest in the world, so and so. You do a minute of the title girl telling you how wonderful title insurance is. You do another minute and a half. You're done.
Right. I don't think anything else. Brings you new listings and insight from Miami to you. I'm your host and fellow peer, John Porter, here with Sal Davidi of Davidi Realty. And Sal, the topic of the week is, now that first we looked for the house. Then
Correct.
we looked where to search for the house, and thanks to Andy from No Big Deal Group, our expert of the week.
Correct.
And now I like the house. How do I know what offer to make?
Okay. Remember, we talked about, I think, in our second episode, about getting pre-qualified. That kind of tells you what you can and cannot afford to pay for the house. Using that as your guideline, what you just searched for. It really all depends on the areas. Some areas are hot, some areas aren't so hot. The hot areas, you've got to come in pretty close to the list price.
So be like the first one is first priority, or how quick you do it?
I think the first one to dance, the first one to dance.
Right.
So I think the key is to jump on those websites, and the faster you can get in front of the house, and the faster you can make an offer, the more chance you have.
What if it's maybe not a hot area, I'm moving somewhere where maybe not a lot of people want to go? Do I lowball them? Do I offer them a lower?
Again, I think that's where your realtor should help you.
Okay.
They can better tell you what house is selling for in the area, what the comparables are, and then with that information you can kind of make your best offer. Don't assume because the area is not what you like, you lowball the numbers.
Right.
Because in general, the areas now in South Florida, properties are moving, well-priced properties are moving very quickly. So you don't want to also make an offer which is so low that it's just totally ignored by the buyer.
Right, it turns people off. Yeah, it turns people off.
Yeah, and you waste your time.
Okay. So do you have a number? Do you have a percentage? Or
you can't do it that way.
Okay.
It's case by case, but I think that's what the expert we're going to bring on should help a little bit. But I think the person, your actual agent you're working with, should give you some guidelines. And, you can look around for comparables, see what house is sold for in the area, and kind of get pluses or minus. That's just very tough. You should know the area and really know the market.
Okay.
And it's probably one of the hardest parts of the game. But again, don't be worried about making an offer that's too high or too low. The key is to make the offer and see if you can buy the property and then go forward with the process.
Okay, cool. I think that'll get us into the expert of the week. We'll be right back with the property of the week after the expert of the week.
Sounds good.
We're here with the expert of the week, Enrique Lopez from Town Realty. Enrique.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Before we get started with the question of the week or the topic of the week, give us a brief history about you or Town Realty and your experience.
Sure. Well, I started in real estate about 12 years ago. We've been in business a little bit longer than that because I started in real estate as an investor. We launched Town Realty, and we mainly concentrate on working with residential real estate. We don't do a lot of commercial transactions. And I've also had the opportunity to serve at the state level as a director for Florida Realtors and on the local board for the Miami Association of Realtors for many years now.
Okay, cool. And now, I guess what we're talking about, we found a home, we know our finances, we want to now make an offer on a property. How do we go about that? What would we do?
So my first recommendation is always to any consumer, identify an expert. Right?
Okay.
My first recommendation is work with a professional. Right. So, and within working with a professional, I'll take it a step further and say, if you're a buyer, try to identify buyer's agents, people that do real estate but mainly focus on buyer representation. These are going to be individuals that probably have a lot of knowledge of the particular neighborhoods that you're looking at, and in addition to that, have a lot of experience negotiating contracts. That will be the first step. So hopefully, as a consumer, you've done that already. Once you've been looking around, you've identified a property, you want to make an offer on a property. One of the first things that as a broker, as a real estate agent, I do is I try to ascertain the motivation from the seller. So there's several factors that influence the value or the price that the home is going to sell for. Well, the first thing that I will try to identify is, what is your motivation to sell? Why do you need to sell, right? Because ultimately that is going to influence how much money I recommend my client offer. If it's you might be relocating for work, or you might be losing the house, or you might be in the middle of a divorce. These are all things that ultimately affect the price of the home.
Are there better or worse things? I need a new roof, so I'm just going to get rid of it, or there's something wrong with the property. Is that a better situation than someone that, you know, has another situation that has nothing to do with the property, like a divorce, or they want to leave or relocate? Or is there, what's the...
In the circumstances where they're selling because there's issues with the house, you automatically know you're going to be selling at a deeply discounted rate.
Right.
Because a property with a roof damage, a property with any sort of condition problem may not necessarily qualify for all financing options.
Right.
So, for example, a property that has roof damage may not necessarily qualify for an FHA loan. Okay. So automatically, if you had 100 buyers in the market, you might be already eliminating 50 of them or 75 of them that are coming in with FHA financing, and so your pool of buyers is a lot smaller, and that is obviously going to impact how much you could actually ask for the home.
So you could offer a little less. That might be more favorable for the person trying to buy the home.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Correct.
Is there anything, because, you know, we want to be educated buyers. Like you said, find an expert, but you want to deal with the expert as well. Is there any play? Do you just take what the expert says, or do you...
There's a lot of information nowadays in the internet, right? So the websites that you guys mentioned in the previous episodes, right? Zillows and Trulias and Realtor.coms of the world, right? That gives you a sort of a baseline, because those websites use what is called an automated valuation models, right? Which are going to look at everything that's selling in the particular neighborhood and come up with a number. When you work with a professional, they're going to do a little bit of a more in-depth analysis of what's happening. We have to be able to differentiate between price and value.
Right.
Right. There's a difference between price and value. Value really comes down to what consumers are willing to pay for your home, given what else is selling in the neighborhood, right? And so we need to be able to make a distinction between those two. But once I've identified a property, once I've identified a broker or an agent that's going to be working with me, once I've identified motivation from the selling side to see how aggressive I could be with the offer, the next step for me is to do an in-depth analysis of everything, all of the inventory. And that actually boils down to absorption rate, right? How many properties are going on the market and how many properties are actually selling in that particular subdivision or neighborhood. And once I know that there's 50 properties that go on the market every month and 25 of them sell, that's a 50% absorption rate, right? We try to track that in terms of months of inventory. The more inventory there is, the more pricing pressure there is. So the seller cannot expect to get the asking price in those circumstances because there's a lot of competition. Right. But if you're focused in a particular neighborhood where there is 3 properties on the market and everything that goes on the market sells relatively quickly, your negotiating power is not as much. Okay. And so I'll look at absorption rate and be able to tell whether or not we could be aggressive there. And the last step is really to look at what has sold in the last 6 months, which is what any bank is going to do, right? So we'll look at properties that are similar in condition, size, and physical characteristics, you know, in the similar neighborhood, and we'll come up with a valuation, right? And then I always recommend to the client, every client is different. We get 2 types of clients, buyers, right? Some buyers that automatically want to offer full price no matter what because they're afraid of losing out on the opportunity. Right. Because the inventory right now in South Florida is relatively tight. Right. So they don't want to miss out. They've already been looking for 3 months. Right. You also have the other side, which is the other type of consumer that always wants to discount the property that they're trying to purchase. Right. And so once you know who you're sort of working with, it's more or less what you know, the kind of recommendation that you can make. But at the end of the day, once you're done with all of your analysis, and once you come up, based on everything that you've looked at, you've come up with a price to offer, the last recommendation is really to make every offer contingent on appraisal. Okay. Right? So whenever you put an offer, make sure that if you're going to go full price or above asking price, make sure you make that contingent on appraisal so that if there's a hiccup,
Right.
And for whatever reason, the valuation is not necessarily there. You as a consumer, you as a buyer, have an opportunity to backtrack and not find yourself having to come out of pocket a certain amount of money.
All right, cool. So then just to wrap it up and to conclude, find an expert. It's better to buy with an expert,
Correct.
obviously, for the reasons that you just stated. I mean, we can go to Zillow, we can do all these other searches, but you're going to actually do an in-depth, search. You're an
Analysis
expert.
of the
Yeah,
LDR.
you're
Right.
going to know what the value of the property, or you're going to have a better idea of what the value of the property is. And then when you offer, make sure you make an offer with an appraisal, or so you have another opinion. So basically, get your opinions and use an expert. Enrique,
Correct.
do you have anything else for right now? We're going to include your information at the end.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I think this is really important to get these things out there, to try to educate our consumers in South Florida. The South Florida real estate market is very tricky. And so, again, my recommendation is always to work with a professional, understand the market, try to ascertain the motivation on the selling side, and those things will give you an insight and would help you negotiate that transaction better.
Enrique, thank you for coming
My
on.
pleasure.
We're going to go back to the property of the week. Thanks again to the expert of the week. And now we're going to move to the property of the week. Sal, the property of the week is 4950 Southwest 111th Avenue, Miami, Florida, 33165.
Yeah, that's one of our listings. That is a redone 4-bedroom, 2-bath, right around 1,700 square feet. Again, in the area of Westchester, on a beautiful block, new roof of electrical with LED lighting. It's on I think a 75 by 110 lot. Some impact windows throughout the house. Updated porcelain floors. Again, I think we're asking $425. So you can buy it with a down payment as low as 3.5%. Owner might help pay some closing costs. I think it's a house that somebody in that price range should look. It's a real nice property, and the seller is motivated.
Okay.
So enjoy the photos, and if you have any questions, you can call us.
Okay. Cool. Sal, do you have anything else for the rest of the week, for this week?
I think, again, we're progressing with our idea behind the show.
Right.
We're taking each step as we believe the steps are in buying a home. From the pre-approval for the mortgage, from how to find it, to what the best way to determine what your offer should be. Next, we're going to touch on the actual sales contract, and we'll take one step a week. We'll bring an expert in,
Right.
and we'll help you with the process. I mean, this is not, it's not brain surgery, but again, it's a difficult process. It's a stressful property, helping someone find their dream home.
Right, obviously. Okay, cool. Well, we appreciate all of you for watching. Thank you, Sal, for the lesson. And from DeViti Realty, we wish you a good day and sell more homes.